Hey world, it's another episode of the KEW exchange. My internet's worse than ever today, so bear with me. I'm not feeling great, so bear with me. Today we're going to have a conversation with Alina and Olga, Creative Society, and I'm excited to have this conversation. So I'm looking forward to it. And Alina, why don't you introduce yourself real quick, and then we'll have Olga introduce herself, and then we'll just have a conversation about the Creative Society.
Sounds good.
So, hi guys, my name is Alina. For the last 8 years, I live in Ireland. I work as a physical and massage therapist. I love my job, I love my clients, and in my spare time, I'm a volunteer for the Alatra International Public Movement and the Creative Society project. And I'm really happy to participate. I do it every day, and yeah, very happy to be useful.
I am in the United States. I live in Detroit, and I am, as a profession, I am a brand and web designer, but also, as Alina said, on the side, when we have free time from family and work, we volunteer for Alatra International Public Movement and the Project Creative Society, which we will tell you more about today. So we are very excited to be here and just to share this global vision for the viewers.
Thank you so much for both of you being here. So I was interviewed by the Creative Society, and there's the 8 principles, which I'd like to dig into. But before we do that, Alina, why don't you explain why you're involved? Because I'd like each of you to explain your why behind it.
So yes, I got involved about 7 years ago after I read the Alatra book. I was so inspired by the knowledge given in this book, and I started to find like-minded people, and I found so many of them. We just couldn't do nothing. We wanted to act. We wanted to make this world a better place. And why I'm participating? Because simply it makes me happy. Once I watched the interview on one of our Alatra TV channels, and there was a guest. I can't remember who exactly. It was 3 or 4 years ago, but he said, "Guys, I just admire you. It might be so difficult to stay motivated all the time, to keep doing what you are doing without getting paid for that, without getting any visible material benefits for it in your spare time." And then I thought, is it really difficult for us to contribute? And I understood that no, it's actually very easy because it makes us so happy. I realized that I'm involved because I just can't live differently, because feeling what I feel when I participate, it's just impossible to stay inactive. And I feel that my life isn't empty as it used to be before. It is fulfilled now. It gives me inner satisfaction to do something which really matters. And I see on practice how the Creative Society project changes the world, how it unites people, how much we can do together. And this feeling of unity really makes my spirit fly.
That's awesome. I love anything that brings community together and is looking for a higher purpose, a better purpose for, universally. I love, and I'm very passionate for. So, Olga, what about your why? Why is this important to you? Why are you involved, and how did you get involved?
Become a volunteer for Alatra International Public Movement about 3 or 4 years ago now. So as many of us, I have this question. So what is my purpose? Why am I here? Like, what is it? Am I here to be born grow up, go to work, build a house, plant a tree, have kids, and die? Is that the purpose of us being born here? And I start questioning it, because that didn't always me, because I look outside of the window and I see all the hate, crime, separation, everything happening, and we live in this unjust world that we don't deserve. Like, we as human beings really deserve to live as human beings, not as animals towards each other. So I start questioning. One of my friends, she introduced me to the public movement, and I like that your program says knowledge, experience, and wisdom, because I feel that that type of knowledge that I acquired from the books that Alina mentioned, Alatra book and some other books, and really like researching into what our life is all about, it really gave me a perspective of, okay, so the life doesn't happen to us, right? It's what we make out of it. It's the thoughts we have, it's the actions we take, it's all of it. So it's my personal responsibility to make this world a better place. It is my personal responsibility to make sure I get to live on this planet Earth and not just be born to die, because no one wants that. Everybody, knows that we're gonna die, but what's the purpose of living here? And really, Alatra International Public Movement gives me this freedom of communicating with people around the globe and really understanding on practice what it really means to be united in one idea of building a creative society with one vision for everybody to live in a better society, the society we all deserve. And you can't, like Alina said, like, you cannot just not act. Every day we do something to make this a reality, and it's gonna happen. If more people get involved, it's gonna happen faster and faster, and we can live in the creative society. It's not a utopia, it's not a dream, it's something that we all deserve. And this is my why is that I'm not here to die, I'm here to live, and the best way I know how is through this open, honest communication around the globe.
So, okay, so there's a lot there, right? Like you just a lot of information. For me, right, my definitive purpose, I've come to the realization, is to elevate humanity through knowledge and understanding, right? And that's one of the reasons I have this show and a bunch of other shows, and I'm live all the time, and I'm always talking and having real conversations, because I feel like real conversations is how you impact people and give people the ability to express themselves in their life. So what I want to do is, let's look at the 8. I'm so bad with this. 8 principles, maybe. Okay, so
Principles
let's
as
look at.
8 pillars,
Okay.
8 foundations. We call them different things, but they
Yes.
are the bone structure of a creative society.
So can one of you go, can either of you, or rotate back and forth, go one at a time, and what it means and how you believe that it's living into that?
Yeah, most definitely. Alina, do you want to start with number 1, human life?
Yes, human life. I will read it for you. I have it here. So it states that human life is the highest value. Life of any human has to be protected as one's own. The goal of society is to ensure and guarantee the value of each human's life. There is no and never can be anything else more valuable than a human's life. If one human is valuable, then all people are valuable. Yeah, so before we will share maybe our understandings of this foundation, I will tell our viewers how they were formed. For about 10, I think, years, we were conducting social surveys. We did interviews with people all over the world, asking them what unites all of us, what do we all have in common, regardless of our religion, nationality, skin colors, and so on. And also we asked people what kind of society they would like to live in. And based on the answers of people from all over the world, the 8 foundations of creative society were formed. And here you can see them. Yeah, we noticed that people all over the world want to see the same things in the world we live in today. And the first foundation is human life. It's very important, and it's very deep foundation.
Yeah, and it's
So
actually the foundation that's missing in our life right now, because if we look at the way we live for the past 6,000 years, we lived in this consumeristic type of society where we really put profits over people life or human life. And when we do that, then we don't cannot really consider ourselves human, because things are being done not for the betterment of humanity, but to destroy humanity. And we need less of that. We need more of the improvement of human life. We need more of human freedom to really be seen in the world. So that's why those foundations are so important, and human life is like number one. Like if we put human life first, everything would change. Our medical care would change. Our like we won't have wars, we won't have crime, we won't have any of that. Like this foundation really solves all global, local, and personal problems right there.
yes, even if we implement even just one this foundation, so wars will be gone, no harmful production will be gone, relationship between people will and nations will change, and we will just do all our best to improve quality of life of every single person on earth, just because he or she is a human being and is a part of our huge international family.
When I look at human life, to me, it's we don't value humanity, we don't value each other, we value things and objects and ownership and possessions. We don't value individuals. We don't embrace everybody's unique individuality, right? We always look for differences to categorize and separate rather than embrace. Um, so I really love the human life part of it. I think that's a big core foundation just for being a good human, right? And it's something that is tremendously lacking in the world today. So what about okay?
Michael,
So
it's also
yeah,
very easy to be a good human being when you have conditions to be a good human being. When you have conditions where there is no food on the table, when you have conditions where you have to fight for every dollar or penny you making, like you cannot be a good human being. Those animal instincts in you prevail, because you don't know what type of food you're going to put on the table. You don't know what's coming, and you just live in this state of fear, as we said, right? So that's why human life and like valuing your own life, because if you think about it, if you value your own life, you would not touch another life, whether it's human life, animal life, plant life, doesn't matter. You will not even consider, you would not even have a thought of damaging someone else's life.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
and I understand, right? Like I've been in that position numerous times, right? I've been worth millions of dollars numerous times and homeless 5 times. So I understand that completely, right? I've had a lot and I've lost everything. For me, I value a human soul well over any possession that I could ever have. I value it over, even an income, right? Like, I mean, most of the work I do is for free because I'd rather help somebody than, you know, be in it for self-interest. So when we talk about human freedom, now in the US, obviously, I think that's a little bit differently perceived than the rest of the world. But why don't you explain a little bit about the human freedom side?
I will read it from the website, and then I can explain it from my own understandings as well. So, human freedom it just simply means that every human is born with the right to be a human being. All people are born free and equal. Everyone has the right to choose. There cannot be anything on earth superior to a human, his freedom and rights. The implementation of human rights and freedoms must not violate the rights and freedoms of other people. So for me, this human freedom is so important, because we really don't know where our body is going to be born. If we were born in one country or another, like that should not matter or should not determine the outcome of our life. Everybody should have enough of possibilities and abilities to live their life to the fullest, highest human potential. And human freedom just means, just because there is human freedom, and I know in America we take it a little bit personal, but that's because we are a little bit more consumeristic than we need to be. But if you think about it, human freedom is not you can do whatever you want. Human freedom is you can choose to do whatever you want as far as your decision does not affect another human life, short run, in a long run, or at all. So, because we have the human life established as number one priority, so your freedoms cannot be damaging to another, human freedom. So that's how I understand it, and that's where I see the human freedom right now being twisted to benefit a few groups or a few, agendas. But real human freedom is the freedom that we all accept around the globe, and we understand that we live by those principles of don't, love your neighbor, don't hurt each other, all of that.
And for me, this foundation is about priorities. In a consumer society, we see that the main priority can be whatever, but not a human being. It can be money, and it can be power, it can be interest of any organization. So we see that something not alive, something dead is above a living human being. And creative society is a human-centered society, so human rights and freedom go first.
No, and again, right? Human freedom is misperceived, very misconstrued in the U.S. There's so many countries around the world where there is zero freedoms, right? Where there is none, absolutely none. Your life is controlled 100% circumstantially, and that is the life you live, and it's massively controlled. In the U.S., we're very spoiled. Yes, there are a lot of inequalities. There is a lot of them, and I'm never going to say that there isn't. But there is a lot of inherent freedoms that we have that most of the world doesn't, and we do take them for granted a lot of days. What about human safety? Let's look at human safety.
Mhm. So I will read it, human safety. All of them, an explanation of all of them can be found on the latvia.com website. So human safety, no one and nothing in society has the right to create threats to the life and freedom of a human. Every human is guaranteed free provision of essential life necessities, including food, housing, medical care, education, and full social security. Scientific, industrial, and technological activities of the society should be aimed exclusively at improving the quality of human life. Guaranteed economic stability, no inflation and crisis, stable and same prices around the world, a single monetary unit, and a fixed minimal taxation or no tax. The security of human and society from any kind of threats is ensured by unified global service that deals with emergency situations. So I just can give very simple example to explain the importance of this foundation. I was looking for the information how much money is spent for armaments worldwide, and I found the research for 2018. It was one trillion 822 billion dollars. So, and it's just official number. It's a huge, and where all this money come from taxpayers, taxpayers. So it happens so that we people are sponsoring wars, but did anybody asked us if we want them, if we need them at all? So how it is possible that few individuals send millions of people just to go and kill one another? Wouldn't it be better to use this money wisely to create such conditions on our planet so that we have no poverty, we have everybody will has a roof over his head and food on his table. So just wouldn't it be better to invest this money for development of medicine, education, science, something useful for people? So
Yes. And human safety is so important. You know what? We talk to people in African countries, we talk to people around the globe, but mostly in African countries, they really have a problem. They're saying, like, we understand the bigger concept of creative society. We get it. We are 100% behind it. We know that, this needs to be happen. But at the end of the day, I don't have a food on my table. I don't have drinkable water, and I cannot think globally. I cannot think like beyond what's tomorrow will bring, because I don't have it tomorrow unless I hustle today, unless I sell my body, unless I trade my children for sex, unless I do all of those things. And it's horrible. We should not have those type of conditions where people have to live like that. It is inhuman to do that. And we have all the resources in the world, but we are spending them to build the next biggest rocket we can launch at each other and kill each other and all of this. So it's not that we don't have money, it's not that we don't have resources. We have it all. We got to start sharing, we got to start living as a global community. We got to understand that everybody is born here as a human being and deserves to have a little social package that comes with it. Maybe food on the table, roof over the head, jobs if they want to go to job or not. So it's just simple things like that. And sometimes we make it so complex that we just go on and, fight for something where we already put the band-aids on, and we don't need to be. We cannot put another band-aid anywhere.
yes, and it's absolutely doable if we stop shifting the responsibility for our lives to one or two guys on the top, and just we'll take responsibility for ourselves, so we can create such conditions that all people feel safe and have all basic needs covered.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, safety is a huge thing, right? Like that is an ultimate fear and insecurity. It drives us to do things outside of our character. It pushes us to live outside of where we want to be and who we want to be, right? It takes us away from our core purpose as human beings, to want to be the best we can, to want to be there for everyone else. And yes, human safety is an enormous concern globally, and it's something that needs to be addressed on a global level. But it also takes the masses to understand it and want to have that conversation, right? So let's go into one of my favorite topics, which is transparency and openness of
Don't we
information
need
for all.
that? Don't we need that? Yes, I'm going to read it and then we can dive deep into that. And it's very important to have the transparency and openness of information for all. So about the movement and distribution of public funds. Each human has access to information about the status of implementation of the society's decisions. The mass media belongs exclusively to the society and reflects information truthfully, openly, and honestly. That sums it up. That will allow us actually to have the voting system where people around the globe can vote, and they can also see where their money are going. If we pay in taxes, we can all see, my tax money went to kill another person in war, or did they go to roads so we can distribute water to that area. So we can really see how the public funds are being transferred. That transparency is just gonna eliminate all type of corruption, and also will eliminate all type of fear people have about how governments spend the money and on what, and which pocket all the money go to. That will eliminate that completely. And also knowing that we just put the human life first, that will allow us to really be open and honest with each other and receive information that we can actually make a decision on, and not say, what, I heard this on the news, but I don't know how true it is. I'm gonna fact check, and I'm going to fact check on the resources that I don't know if they're telling me the truth. So basically, the truth is being very well hidden and not delivered to the masses, so we can make educated decisions about anything that happens around the globe. And this foundation will allow us to become educated and to become equal on all levels, right? So if we all receive the same, exactly same information around the globe, then this will make it easier for us to be friends.
Yeah, creative society, it's a fair society. People themselves decide what is relevant to them at that moment, whether they want to use common resources to development of science or for improvement of infrastructure of the city. And using modern technologies, anytime they can check where the funds are distributed and what stage the implementation of their decision is on.
Mm-hmm. We can't hear you, Michael, if you're talking. You got unmute?
I'm on mute.
Okay.
I'm on mute in case the feedback's coming from me. Or it's the fan above me that's creating it, either or. So for me, right, like one of my major core values is transparency and blunt honesty. So I feel like it's an individual responsibility that each one of us needs to take ownership of that. And once each individual starts becoming transparent, even with themselves, right, they need to become transparent with themselves before anyone could be transparent with anyone else. And I feel like that's where the major gap is, and that's where a lot of blocks are, because most people don't want to look at themselves. And I'm not going to pretend that it's an easy path, and I'm not going to pretend that it's all fun and games, because it's really not. When you take that deep, hard look at yourself, there is a lot of pain. There's a lot of stuff you need to clean up. There's a lot of stuff you go through. But it is really, truly worth it, because how we adjust as we grow through it is one of the most beautiful processes I've ever seen. And it's one of the most beautiful processes I've ever been through, right? Like, I mean, I've taken a lot of time and spent a lot of time working on myself. So when it comes to transparency, I feel like it's something that is beyond necessary.
Well, what you said is like very true. Creative society is a society of honest people. So the honesty starts with ourselves. Like if we can be honest with ourselves, if we can see our flaws, and if you can say to someone, hey, you know what? I just had a thought about you that was negative, and I didn't want to cook it in my head. So I want to let you know I had this bad thought about you, and I don't think this way, but somehow it entered me. So I want to share that with you, so we don't have any, things that are that's between us, that you might think I had this thought, and I will think like, oh my God, I'm thinking about this person in a certain way. Why am I doing this? Instead of being open and honest and say, you know what, this is not working, but I'm going to let you know that I'm working on it. I'm going to let you know that, those thoughts are no longer welcome in my head. And I don't think that you deserve that thought. I think you are a human being just like me. And, let's be friends. So that type of transparency, can you imagine if that was like an open and honest conversations we had with our kids? If that was the open and honest conversations we had with our husbands or wives, if that was the open and honest conversations we had even in a community or even in a government, where we don't hide those type of things that going through our head, but we actually speak them out and say, it is not okay to even think those. So I just gonna go and work on myself because it is not okay. We can't hear you, Michael, if you're talking.
Again, yeah, I keep muting myself and unmuting myself. No, I mean, thank you everybody for that's watching. Annie, I appreciate you. Obviously, you know better than anyone where I'm at and where I've been. Giannis, as far as you're concerned, transparency is another word for simplicity. I think transparency creates simplicity in your life. Because when you're not trying to hide something or remember what you hid, then you have a tremendous amount of personal freedom and simplicity in your own life to live as your true, most authentic, most genuine, soul-centered self, right? And for me, that's where it crosses that That's when you as an individual cross that threshold to living into a higher purpose for yourself. It's when you have that personal freedom, which everybody has their own definition of, right? You can be trapped in prison and still have personal freedom. You can be anywhere in the world in any circumstance, still find your personal freedom. So for me, the definition of that is just having freedom from self-judgment and, you know, knowing your value, your worth, and what you bring to the table as a human and part of this, you know, human existence and just the human population, right? The human race. So let's go to the next number. How do I do this? Uh-oh. There we go. See, Kelly. She's the best. I love Kelly. So lost without her. So the creative ideology, let's talk about that a little bit, because I really want to go into that a little bit more, because that I think the first four really describe, you know, I think the first four, and then I think 7 is really core human values, right? That it's just bringing it to the service and people gathering around for that purpose. And I think at our core, we all realize that and understand that. But I think this is where you guys separate a little bit, is how you go about it. So I really want to talk about the creative ideology for a little bit.
Yes, actually, my favorite foundation, it says that ideology should be aimed at popularizing the best human qualities and stopping everything that is directed against the human. The main priority is the priority of humanity, high spiritual and moral aspiration of the humanus, virtue, mutual respect, and strengthening of friendship, creating conditions for the development and education of a human with a capital H, cultivating moral values in each person and society, prohibition of propaganda of violence, condemnation and denunciation of any form of division, aggression, and anti-humane manifestations. So we know that the impact of informational field we live in is huge on every human, and the people tend to imitate what they see, especially if they see it often. So we have to make sure that the information we're surrounded by is mostly positive. And as they say now, our role models are good people, so it should be popular in society to be a kind person, to to help others, to contribute somehow for society. And we should see more good example from news, to hear them on radio. So yeah, I think it will have huge impact on our lives.
Yeah, for sure.
No, I mean,
And then
I definitely
for
agree.
me, yeah, go ahead.
No, you're good. You're good. I'm just moving it to the center screen.
As a mother, I know firsthand that it is very difficult for my kids to find a program to watch that didn't have violence glorified in it. Even heroes, right now, if you look at the heroes that everybody follows, somehow we have blurred the line of good and bad, gray area, and we no longer understand evil and what is good. So an example of it will be like a superhero that is saving the world by fighting off other villains, and he is or she is killing them off one by one and what's not, and all of a sudden that hero that uses violence and killing people is the hero we are glorifying, is the hero we are putting on the products we wear, is the hero we are promoting in everywhere we go. So all of the sudden, somehow, somewhere, that hero becomes good. But the actions that the villains took in order to, save the planet or whatever we're doing right now. So we as a society really right now, if we look at our television or radio or ads on the freeway that we drive, everything aimed at popularizing those animal qualities in us. And when I say animal instincts or qualities, is those like not of the spiritual value values. So we know that we are dual as human beings. Most religions and cultures always say that there is like an angel on one side and the devil on another side, and we decide who we feed. So how do we make sure that in the media and every information that we receive is actually helping our angel side, not the devil side? Because what we see right now, that the violence is so glorified that we don't even pay attention. It's just numbers. We say, you know what, there is 10% of violence in this country and there is 20% of violence in this country. That means the 10% is a good way to live. That's perfect. But in reality, if you put human life first, even one incident of someone's life being mistreated is not acceptable. And right now we really live in a condition where I cannot turn on the TV for my children because I don't know what type of ad or what type of commercial will come on that is not going to be appropriate for even adults to see, because we really blurred that line. And it's just coming from my personal experience. I know some people just love the horror movies and they thrive on them. But then at the end of the day, you're walking out from a movie theater and you are afraid of your own shadow. You're afraid to fall asleep at night. You're afraid that if you fall asleep, that something is going to come and get you. You're afraid that the lights will go off and something will happen to you. Well, that just happened because you introduced yourself to the violence and you kind of welcomed it into your life, and you live in that state of fear that you didn't have before you watched something on the TV channel or on the movies, or you never even have those thoughts that someone is hiding in the shadow is going to attack you, but all of a sudden you welcome those thoughts. So that's for me like a very personal subject, because I like to be in control of what I watch and what my kids watch. And right now we do have a choice, and it's personal responsibility of where we pay our attention to.
I agree with you completely, and everybody's that individual choice. For me, it's not about as much what my kids or what I intake. I mean, I really don't absorb. I don't watch news. I refuse to watch news of any kind, because that to me is the most toxic. I've stopped really watching sports just because during COVID I realized I'm really not as interested as I used to be. For me, it was one of my escapisms was to hide behind sports. So I really don't have that interest as much anymore. And what I watch is movies and sci-fi stuff. I don't really pay attention to realistic stuff because it's perceived realities, right? And as far as what my kids intake, they intake a whole wide variety, but I sit down daily and have honest, deep conversations with them and explain to them the reality of current events and circumstances as they happen. I don't hide anything from my children because I think they need to understand the reality moving forward in this world. I did want to address this question from my perspective. Where is it? To realize one's creativity, is it a prerequisite, wow, to have realized your own? I can speak from my personal experience. No, I was always much better at seeing it in everybody else. I didn't start seeing my own until I started doing the work and finding myself and trusting myself and believing in myself. I think by seeing it in others can lead you down a path to see it in yourself. I think now that I see it in myself, I see it clearer in others on a much deeper level, on a soul level. But I do think you can see it without doing anything and just and observe life if you don't want to participate. As far as the list goes, we are on number 6.
All right, let's move to number 6, development of personality. Actually, this one is a favorite amongst people that I interview on Alatra TV, and everybody thinks this one is very important because somehow, somewhere, we forgot those soft skills and we forgot to be, human beings. So here it is, development of personality. Every human in the creative society has the right to comprehensive development and personal fulfillment. Education should be free and equally accessible to all, creating conditions and expanding opportunities for a human to implement his or her creative abilities and talents. So for me, this foundation makes so much sense because if we were born and we didn't work on ourselves, we didn't recognize that we have, ego that we work on, if we didn't recognize that we have negative thoughts, if we didn't recognize that we can act differently, or we don't have to be emotional, or we can be emotional, like if we didn't recognize all those things inside of us, what makes us a human, then it would be very hard for us to live through life. And also, if we didn't recognize that no one owes us anything and that everything is really my responsibility, that makes life easier as well. And we have to learn, we have to evolve. We can't just be those human beings that are glued to the TV stations and just understanding what someone wants us to know. There is so much more information we can be learning and also implementing our talents. So for example, if someone is very good at cooking a salad, and they are so good in it, they should be able to cook salads and work on their abilities and talents every single day, because A, they enjoy it, B, they bring joy to other people as they feed them, but they also should be able to have the same salary as someone who had decided to, not to cook a salad, but, go wash floors somewhere. So it should be, we shouldn't value people based on what they do. We should really allow people to develop their talents, and we all have them. Just because our conditions does not allow for the talents to bloom in most of the parts of the world, because we are in this survival mode, that doesn't mean that we don't have them. Every single person can contribute to the society in the best way possible, and it doesn't have to be big. It can be something small. So that development of personality is really resonating with a lot of people. And again, education should be free and available and accessible to everybody, because that is going to allow us for the same conditions, and then we can decide what we want to do if we have all the same global education system around the globe.
Yes, I agree. And well, when all people are intelligent and educated enough, it's impossible to manipulate them because they can see the truth.
That's true.
Yeah. I mean, for me, okay, so one of my core projects that I work on is redeveloping the global education system. I believe that it needs to be completely revamped, and knowledge needs to be accessible to everyone, so that everybody has access to free knowledge. Knowledge should be free, and people should have the right to go seek it and curiously find it on their own. I think that a system needs to be implemented globally that people can have access, and also then have the right to choose what they want to absorb and what they don't want to absorb, right? Because the reality is not everybody's going to be great at math or sciences. Somebody could be great at literature. And I think that it's very important that it goes back and forth and people can choose their specialty in life, even at a young age. If somebody would have said to me at a young age that by the time you're 45, Grammarly would be invented and you don't have to ever worry about grammar again, that it would be just, an amazing thing, right? Because I could have focused on math sciences, which I was amazing at, truly gifted at, but because I was bad at grammar, it held me back, it slowed me down, it left me in a position where I didn't even want to go to school, right? And it took away the curiosity of learning. Not only that, they taught me that I didn't learn properly, so that made me, obviously want to rebel and fight back, which I did very well for years. So next on the list is justice and equality.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about justice and equality.
All natural resources belong to humans and are fairly distributed among all people. Monopolization of resources and their irrational use is prohibited. These resources are fairly distributed among the citizens of the entire Earth. A human is guaranteed employment if he or she so desires, pay for their identical position, specialty, or profession should be the same all over the world. everyone has the right to private property and income, however, within the limits of the individual's capitalization and must set by society. Well, I have actually nothing to add here. I'll just give you a small example to understand the importance of this foundation. It's the example of African country called Congo. It is now it is the purest country in the world, according to the level of people's life. The purest country, but at the same time, this country is one of the richest countries with natural resources. It has iron, it has diamonds, gold, silver, oil, zinc, and many more. And just this is a perfect example of consumer society. And of course, in creative society, all resources truly belong to people, and not on paper, but in practice, because it is fair society.
Because right now we actually have wars because we are fighting for resources. And it's funny because like resources belong to planet Earth and we are born on planet Earth. So it's not like just because geographically you are located in one area or another does not mean that if you were, born there, or if your city is there or country is there, then you can monopolize resources that are available on planet Earth. And that's what creative society will ensure, that we have enough of resources and we're not fighting over who gets what. It really is a fair, honest society that everybody deserves, and it's simple as that. And if someone finds some kind of new resources, then we can say, hey world, we found new resources, let's figure out how to distribute it among all of us, let's make it work. Like how do we use it to improve human lives? Because right now we even see that resources are being taken out of the core of the earth, and the human life is being put on a back burner, and people die by going into the mines or going into the work and never come back, because they're just digging for something that going to be sold for a lot of money around the globe. So that eliminates like all of that fighting, all of that injustice that we have when it comes to the natural resources.
Yeah, and I think this is a very important. Yeah, that's the comment I was actually going to go to, but obviously Kelly's more on top of it than me. It's important, right? Like, who decided where these lines need to be, and this again is generational. Like, there's so many issues around this world individually, personally, each individual in this planet. We all have these conditions and things that have been handed down generationally, and I think geographic is one of them, right? Like, I can tell you from here in the U.S., if you look at a globe that's made in the U.S., North America looks bigger than most continents. If you look at it from the moon, North America is not bigger than most continents, right? It's all about the perspective that we share with the world and where we come from, right? And this slanted knowledge base is really harming the global society, right? Just humanity as a whole. It's making us fight, and rather than embrace and elevate and lift up and push to be better. So what number are we on? 7? I'm losing
Yeah,
my mind
number
today.
8. The foundation
We're on number 8?
we're on number 8. The foundation that will make it happen for all of us, and the foundation that actually takes that self-responsibility and drives, creative society through. So number 8 is self-governing society. The concept of power in the creative society is absent, since the responsibility for society as a whole, its development, living conditions, and harmonious format lies within each human. Everyone has the right to participate in the management of affairs of the creative society and in the adoption of laws that improve human life. The resolution of socially important, socially significant, and economic issues that affect the quality of human life is submitted for public discussion and vote, referendum. So basically, this is just gives us an ability to implement all the 8 foundations and to make sure that those 8 foundations really work for us, because we really need to get to the level where there is no power. We only take personal responsibility. So our president can actually go to the grocery store and not have to have like guards and and vehicles that protect him. He is not the power. He's just someone who says, or she's just someone who says, I am responsible for you guys, but I am the unit of this society, and I'm going to implement what we have decided to do, which is a creative society. We're going to put human life first, and I'm a human. Life is first too, so I'm going to go grocery shopping and I'm going to shake your hands. I'm going to say hello to you if you wanted to. If not, I'm just going to live my regular human life and report to work and voice to do, instead of having secret meetings behind the door, signing papers we don't know about, affecting our lives so many ways, and we only know about it from the paper, or we know about it because we go and face with a problem. This is not fair. So this is the 8 foundation is the one that will allow us to vote on the platform, and not just to vote on the platform, but also recall someone who is not representing us well. So if someone says, I'm going to represent you guys on 8 foundations, we're going to live in a creative society, let's do it, it's going to be awesome. And then 2-3 months that our life has not improved, but actually it's worse than it was, we have ability to say, you know what, you're no longer serving us, you're serving yourself, and you're serving a special interest, and we are not interested in it. Please, let's pull you down, and we have another person instead of you coming in, because they said they will take that personal responsibility and they're not gonna assume power over us. So it sounds simple, and it is. We just need to inform everybody about creative society, and that's why Alina and myself, we are involved every single day on the project Creative Society, and really spreading this information, because we only can get, like, the mainstream media is not going to show the project Creative Society. The mainstream media is not going to tell you that on March 20th, we had millions of people watching the conference, Creative Society, what the prophets dreamed of. They're not going to tell you that it was translated to 45 languages simultaneously, which has never been done before in our history. You're not going to hear those news because they are not comfortable for the 1% of people that think they are in control. But we know that 99% of people really want to live in a creative society. And we have those beautiful foundations that were put together as people's requests. They were not put together by dictatorship. They were not put together because someone just thought of them. We combined millions of interviews into the 8 foundations of the creative society. And here we are today talking about it because we already live in it.
And so for me, when I first looked at it, when Alina sent it to me, I loved it, right? I thought it was amazing. And the only one that made me skeptical was the last one, right? Because in my mind, it was, okay, so is this about anarchy? Is this about creating a new way to control the uncontrolled? And you know, I'm looking at it from a jaded perspective based on the world we live in today, right? So when I first looked at it, it was, how negatively can this be used, manipulated, and taken advantage of people? And then after watching it and watching a bunch of episodes and watching the interviews and participating and recommending a bunch of people, right? And for me, it was starting to understand the how to implement part, right? And when you look at the last one, it's all about personal responsibility. It's all about doing the work on yourself. It's all about finding yourself and getting to core, right? And then finding your core values and living into them. To me, as I've truly identified, live into, and stepped into my core values on a daily basis, I find that I align with this extremely well. Like, it truly does align with me. But I didn't see that at a surface level. When I first looked, I didn't see that. And that's just me, right? I'm being very honest
No,
and
Michael, we
transparent.
get those type of feedbacks all the time. We get it. Is it another communism? Is it another socialism? Is it another this and this? And you think about, like, do we want another communism? It didn't work for us. Do we want another socialism? It didn't work for democracy. It didn't work for us, right? So what do we want? We want something that has never been done before. It has been done before, like 12,000 years ago or something like that. People live in a creative society, but that history has been successfully erased, so we cannot dream big. So now we have to come back and say, but what do we really want? And how do we build a society in most peaceful and legal way possible, where every single person benefits? And that's the way we do it. We spread the information, because we can't start in a creative society unless people know about it. And just like you said, it's about just knowing about it and saying, oh, good, Olga and Alina are doing it. I'm just going to sit back and relax and just wait till it's built, and then I'll join you guys. It's not going to happen. This is an evolution of humankind, and we are human beings by openly and honestly communicating with each other and answering those difficult questions that have been programmed into us for 6,000 years. So it's okay. Everybody has a question. And that's why we always encourage, if you have a question, if you think, it's impossible, if you think, it's never going to happen, it's okay to think those ways, but also be open and honest and take a look what millions of volunteers are doing in their free time in order for you, your family, your friends, and everybody around the globe to live in a creative society.
Yes, and we are doing it without any leader, without any hierarchy. So we're just example of self-governing society already. It's a platform, and we just need to make it worldwide. And of course, to make it happen, people should know about this idea, or else it's just not fair, because it's not a project of some group of people. It's a project for all humanity, all people, and we are all forming our society. So changing its format is up to us.
Yeah, I agree. And also, you know what I like about ALLATRA International Public Movement, as Alina said, the only structure we have is that we stand next to each other and we take personal responsibility on steroids. Like, no one is going to do it for you. If you said you're going to do something, you better do it, because no one else is going to do it. And that's how we accomplish things like that. And that's how we are able to have 15 interviews every single day on multiple languages about creative society. This is why we are hosting live conferences around the globe, where we unite people from all walks of life, and we all talk the same language. We all speak the same humanity. There is one goal of building a creative society. There is not a goal to put money in someone else's pocket, because we don't even have any outside financing. We don't accept donations. We don't do any of that. Everything is done for people and by people. So we don't have to answer to anyone. There is no one sponsoring us. Our sponsor is our consciousness. Like, really, it's the conscious ability to say, you know what, I want to live in a better world, and this is my role in it, and I'm going to do it. So it's very easy to, join us. You can visit allatraunites.com, and you can click join us, and you can submit your information. We can reach out to you. All the talents we have around the globe are being used right now to build a creative society. And if you have 5 minutes of your time every day that you do not want to waste, please spend it wisely and spend it building creative society with us.
And I would encourage everyone to do their own research, to look at it for themselves, and make their own intuitive decision, right? Because when it comes to something like this, or comes to anything in life, when making major decisions, I feel like everyone needs to follow their own purpose and their own path, and everyone needs to follow their own intuition. Again, that's about doing the work, getting to that point, being at that level within yourself, but also understanding that purpose. And I would encourage everyone to look at this, because to me, it makes sense, and I'm always trying to help any way I can. But I think everyone needs to make their own decision, right? Because you never want somebody walking into it saying, well, he said I should, right? Because you're never going to get the answers. You're never going to get the commitment. You're never going to get the effort, right? The energy from it. So I would encourage everyone to look into this. I truly enjoyed this conversation, even though I don't feel well. And Kelly, I appreciate you in the background. You saved me once again. Okay, so real quick, Giannis, in my opinion, I think we evolve with technology at the same time. I think it has to be coincide. I think technology can streamline knowledge, streamline information, streamline communication, enhance connectedness, and it needs to be a part of what's built going forward. But as you look at the companies that really control the world right now, do we really want any of them controlling the whole future by themselves? Probably not. So there needs to be more open source. There needs to be more, building towards a knowledge-based future rather than financial welfare. That's my opinion. Again, I'm a little nuts, and I don't care talking out about it. And all of them on lives. So do you guys have any closing words as we're running over time?
Alina, go ahead.
I would just like to invite people, if you don't mind, Michael, to watch our last conference, which is called Creative Society, What Prophets Dreamed of, because it was so significant for all humanity. You see, for 6,000 of years, we people live in a consumer society, and the consumerist mindset dominates newly in every spheres of our life. And the saddest thing that even spiritual aspirations of people are used to serve organizations, not God, not spiritual one, but organization. And also in every religion, it says that God is one, but they still kept dividing us, not mentioning sending us to kill each other. But God is love, and this is mentioned in every religion. And this conference was so unique because it united people from different backgrounds, including Christian pastors, Muslim imams, Buddhist lamas, and they were as one to return the truth to people. So it should be no any middleman between people and God, and this is very important because without this inner spiritual support, people feel lost. We need to know the truth, and that's why this conference has such great importance for all humanity. So please check it out. And yeah, I wish you all the best, harmony in our inner and outer world. Love, happiness, all the best.
Thank you so much,
Alina. Olga, you have anything to add real quick?
Yes, I wanted to add, because some people might, question why would we examine religions when it comes to creative society? Because as a creative society, we are outside of politics and religion. But really, we know that right now we have like 6+ billion of believers. And if we believe in God, why are we fighting? Like, we can't build creative society till we come to the truth and say, you know what, we have nothing to fight over. God is one, God is love, that's it, end of story. In every religion, in every culture, this is that unite us. And that's why it was so important. And it was historical event that happened on March 20th that brought the whole community together, global community together. And we voiced what matters, and we voiced the truth, and that truth was heard around the globe on thousands and thousands of platforms. And we just invite you to be a part of the history with us. You can rewatch it on allatraunites.com.
All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Alina and Olga, I thank you so much, and I learned a lot, and I love learning during these because it's my favorite thing to do. It's the only way I like to learn. Let's restate that.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Michael, and feel better.
Thank you so much for having us.
You're most welcome.